Welcome to Sage Audio. Today, we're covering how to mix music. But first, if you have a mix that you need mastered, send it to us at sageaudio.com to receive a free mastered sample of it. Pick a sampling rate. When mixing, ideally you can use the same sampling rate that was used when the session was recorded. For example, if the session was recorded at 96 kHz, you'd choose the same. Unfortunately, it may be too difficult for your computer to handle this sampling rate and all of the processing. If this is the case, 48 kHz is the minimum that you should use. Let's take a listen to the mix that we're working on today.
One day you come to my open door, and I feel like you can wait no more. You here, buddy, you could have just go. Waiting for
Organize your session. When I mix, I like to color code groups of similar instruments like drums, guitars, etc., and set the output of these grouped instruments to buses. The output of these buses are to the main output. This lets me affect all instruments in a group, mute them if needed, and more. I'll label all of the auxiliary tracks accordingly and color code these as well. Then I'll make some pans and get a general feel for the levels with the faders. Let's take a listen to this setup to get a better understanding of it.
one day you come, and I feel like you here, buddy, you. Since you came, what we waiting for?
Inverse and subtractive EQ. The next thing I want to do is make competing tracks have some separation. My favorite way to do this is with inverse EQ. We'll explain this in detail in another video next week, but in short, you match the two competing signals and then invert the band's gain. This works well for kick and bass. Additionally, I'm going to remove any aspects of the other track's frequencies that I don't enjoy or don't want to have amplified. I'll use subtractive EQ for this. I'll tag an older video in the description which details how to set up inverse EQ. Let's take a listen. Real quick, if you want to see exclusive advanced videos, have priority response to your comments, and get some other future perks, consider joining our channel and becoming a member. Compress and saturate. Next, I want to control my dynamics and add some harmonic distortion. I might use compression and saturation separately, or just use saturation to perform both forms of processing. This depends on the instrument. For something like a background synth, only saturation is typically needed. But for vocals, more might be needed. For this reason, I'll combine compression and saturation on my more important instruments. Let's take a listen.
One day you come to my open door, and I feel like you can wait no more. You here, buddy, you could have just go. But since you came, what we waiting for?
Avoid conflicting processing. At this point, let's talk about one of the biggest problems when mixing, conflicting processing. In short, when we overprocess a signal, we're often using multiple effects that are having the opposite or conflicting effect, in turn, causing more processing to remedy the issue, which just exacerbates the problem. I typically find that less is more, and it definitely helps to know how a processor affects the frequency response, harmonic content, stereo image, and other aspects of the sound before you use it. Let's listen to some conflicting processing.
One day you come to my open door, and I feel like you can wait no more. You here, buddy, you could have just go. But since you came, what we waiting for?
Start on buses. After we've paid some attention to our individual tracks, let's affect the buses with whatever processing is needed, but avoid adding temporal effects like delay or reverb just yet. So maybe some collective saturation or analog emulation, or maybe mid-side equalization to affect the response and image. This is where you can glue groups together more and create a sense of uniformity amongst the instrumentation. Let's take a listen.
One day you come to my open door, and I feel like you can wait no more. You could have just go. But since you gave, what we waiting for? Oh.
Real quick, if you want to see exclusive advanced videos, have priority response to your comments, and get some other future perks, consider joining our channel and becoming a member. Introduce temporal effects. I like to create temporal effects from my instrument groups. I'll use buses from these auxiliary tracks and place a reverb or delay on these new auxiliary tracks. I'll set the send to unity, decide on the reverb or delay settings, and then blend these in using the channel fader. This way, my temporal effects affect the group of instruments, creating a more cohesive sound. It's best to send each group to its own reverb or delay send for reasons that I'll explain in a minute. Let's take a listen.
One day you will come to my open door, and I feel like you can wait no more. Since you gave, what we waiting for? Oh.
Automate effects and finalize track balance. Now is a great time to automate some of the effects to get a more unique sound. For example, maybe I'll automate the vocal bus's delay in one section or drive saturation on an individual instrument for a cool effect. After this, all of my processing is done. At this point, I'll reassess the levels and adjust some individual tracks, and then finally the level of the buses until I get the exact balance that I want. Let's take a listen.
One day you will come to my open door, and I feel like you can wait no more. You here, but you could have just go. But since you gave, what we waiting for? Oh.
Export multiple versions. Lastly, I'll export my mix. What's great about this setup is that I can solo each instrument bus and export it, or maybe create a drumless version, etc. Additionally, we didn't use any processing on the mix bus, and we gave each bus its own reverb or delay send. What this means is that when we solo each bus and it sends, the processing is exactly the same for that send and bus as it would have been when playing the full mix. If, say, we had added a compressor on the mix bus, this compressor would behave differently when processing the full mix versus just one bus. Because we processed everything the way that we did, any bus stems stay true to the full mix and can be recombined to perfectly recreate that full mix. Let's take a listen.
One day you will come to my open door, and I feel like you can wait no more. You here, but you could have just go. But since you gave, what we waiting for? Oh.
If you have a mix that you need mastered, send it to us at sageaudio.com to receive a free mastered sample of it. Also, join and become a member for exclusive videos and content. Thank you so much for watching.